Magnus Carlsen pulls off an amazing checkmate in the World Rapid Championship of 2023, in which Magnus is now officially the champion here. So, congratulations to Magnus here. In this game against Vladimir Fedoseev, Magnus is playing with the black pieces here and Vladimir with the white pieces here. So, knight to c3 is played here, the queen's gambit setup, and bishop goes to b4, making this the Nimzo Indian very defense of the queen's gambit now. So knight f3 by white and bishop captures the knight, pawn captures back, and d6 is pushed by Magnus here. So queen comes to c2 now, and queen to e7 by Magnus, and pawn push to a4, and c5 is pushed here. The earlier pawn push to d6 was intended to push here c5, giving support to this pawn here, uh, countering the pawn structure on the queen side of the board here. So e4 is played now because if you capture, you can get rid of these double pawns here, and Magnus pushes e5 here, putting in more pressure on the center of the board. So white decides to keep the pressure here and pushes the pawn to d5, creating control over these light squares of black, that is Magnus. So knight to d7 and h4 is pushed by Vladimir here, which is an inaccuracy. A5 was the best move here. F5 pushing A5 was the best move here. So pawn push to H6 makes the position equal as of the 10th move. Bishop to E2 by white here, getting ready to castle on the king side of the board. Magnus just moves his king to D8, not looking for castling here. So knight to D2 is played by Vladimir, and king now goes to C7 here, keeping the king safer here. So knight to F1 is played, whereas the best move was to push the A5 pawn. Magnus pushes G6 here, and actually the best his best move was again to push A5 here, not allowing white to push A5 here. So G4 was pushed. Again, this F5 move suggested here, and A5 is now played by Magnus here. So H5 is pushed here, which again in inaccuracy. F3 was the best move, pushing F3 and allowing the pawn structure to form. But after the capture, pawn captures back here, and knight now goes to b6 into a more active position here. So knight to g3 by white here, and to this open g file here, not allowing Magnus to take control of the open g file. Bishop to d7 now by Magnus, and queen now comes to b3 here, attacking the knight here, which is only defended by the king here. So once the rook double up, this knight is in trouble. This pawn will also be in trouble. So knight retreats to e8 by Magnus, where the best move was queen to e8 here, but he didn't. He brought his knight back. Bishop to e3 by Vladimir, and knight now reorients to g7, which was the intent of placing the knight move. Knight f6 was still the best move here. So king now comes to d2 here, connecting both the rooks of white here, and after that Magnus pushes f5 here with the support of both the knight and the bishop over here. So after the capture, knight captures back here, and rook to b1 is now played. But the best move was for the knight to capture on f5 here, but he didn't go for that line. This forces Magnus to bring his rook here to support the knight here. So knight captures the knight here, and bishop captures back with an attack on the rook here. So rook goes to b2 here, keeping the pressure on the knight, and pawn here on b7. Queen to g7 by Magnus, and queen to d1 by white here, and Magnus creates this battery on the g file with the queen in front here, and king now goes to c1 into a safer square here. So queen to h7 here, creating another battery on this light square diagonal with this light square bishop. So rook now goes to a2 now, and knight to d7 by Magnus. Now rook comes back to b2, and knight to f6 is played here, where the best move was to bring the rook here to g2. Magnus didn't go for that, and this allows the rook to come to g1, and the rook gets exchanged. Rook gets exchanged like this. Queen captures back. Rook goes back to a8 here, because once the strength is go, this rook is literally trapped here, not doing anything. So Magnus is bringing the rook back into the game, and f4 was pushed here, where the best move was to bring the queen back here to d1. But this allowed Magnus to bring his rook to g8 and attack the queen, and the queen goes to h2, and e4 is pushed. Rook goes to b1 now. And after that, queen to d7, again supporting this bishop and creating this battery with the bishop and also attacking this pawn over here. So bishop drop backs to d1, supporting this pawn here, and bishop to g4. Magnus could even bring his knight here and exchange it for the bishop, and the bishop retrieves now. And even in this position, Magnus is slightly better in this position. Queen to f5 by Magnus, and king goes to b2 here. Bishop captures the pawn here, and rook now comes in here to e1. b6 is pushed here, where the best move was to bring the rook here to e8, but Magnus didn't do that, and this allows king to come to b3 here, and Magnus brings his king up to g6, and queen goes to h1 now. So rook now penetrates the white ranks here by going to g3 here and attacking the bishop here. Queen to h4 is a mistake, and the bishop to d2 was the best move here. And after that, this allow rook to go to h3, attacking the queen, and the queen drops to f2 now. So bishop goes to f3 now, supporting this pawn here, not allowing this. Once this bishop moves, this pawn will be under attack. So this bishop move reinforces this pawn here. So rook now comes to g1, trying to get into g7 and attack the king. So knight jumps to g4 and prevents that, and queen goes to e1. h5 is pushed here, supporting the knight, and which is already attacking this bishop here. So bishop drop backs to c1, and rook to h2 is played here. So queen to g3 is played, and Magnus brings his bishop to e2 here. Rook to e1 was played here, but the best move was to bring the rook here. Now Magnus plays bishop captures c4 pawn here. This is not a sacrifice here, because only the king can capture. So if you capture with the king here, the other bishop is gone here, by winning a pawn in the process. So queen to h4 by white, and king comes close to d7, preventing this queen from coming in here. These two squares are protected by the by Magnus's queen. Bishop goes to e3, where the best move was to bring queen to g5, but this allows rook to come back to g2, and queen goes back to h1. Rook to g3 attacks the bishop. Bishop retrieves. Knight f6 is played, and rook to d1. Rook to d3 countering the rook here, and rook exchange happens. Pawn captures back here, and king now comes to b5. And as this position, Magnus is clearly better in this position. And after that, this pawn is captured here, looking for a pawn exchange. But if you exchange off your queens here, this pawn could have it easily walk down the board. So queen comes to h3 is played here, but the best move was to go for the queen exchange here. So this allowed the king to go to c7, and from this position it's checkmate written all over the board, no matter what you play here, because after this pawn push to c4, queen c6 is a check, and the king cannot go back because this pawn covers all the exits to the king here. And once the king goes here, b5 plus is played here, and it's a discovered check. And even if the king captures like this, it's a checkmate here. This pawn here and this pawn prevents this king's retreat, and it's checkmate on the board here. So nice little checkmate. So you must always be wary when bringing your king close to the pawns and your own pieces, because there will be checkmate opportunity for your opponent. And Magnus saw this, and he used that opportunity to checkmate and win this match. So that's it. Thanks for watching. We'll be back with more such videos.